On September 11, 2001, the United States was attacked by terrorists. In New York, the focus of the attack was the World Trade Center. Many in the city sought to contribute to the healing process. Michael Feldshuh created a community-based photo project, inviting ordinary citizens to share their experiences of September 11. Hundreds of people provided thousands of photographs taken in the moments, days, and weeks following the attacks. The collection is called the September 11 Photo Project. The stories you will hear are from Photo Project contributors and others who were caught on film or caught up in events as they photographed that unforgettable day.
To me, the real beginning of the story is the day before, because I feel that I knew something was going to happen. The company that I work for occupied the 31st, 32nd, and 34th floors of 2 World Trade. On the afternoon of September the 10th, there was a really violent thunderstorm that came from the south. It was kind of slow in the office, so I went to one of the conference rooms and photographed it, not really knowing why, just kind of wanting to capture the way that the storm had advanced and the feeling that it gave me.
My husband's name is Mark Rasweiler. He was the vice president for Marsh & McLennan in New York City. He worked at the World Trade Center in the North Tower on the 100th floor. Mark would leave early, typically by 6 o'clock, 6:15, and the routine was he would just call me to wake me up as he was heading out the door, and just said he was leaving and have a good day, and off he went.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins.
Good morning. 64 degrees at 8 o'clock. It's Tuesday, September 11th. I'm Lee Harris.
It's a beautiful day today. Sunshine throughout. Really a splendid September day. The afternoon temperature about 80 degrees. Great weather for the
lots of races
primary
to be
election.
decided, including
Tonight,
who will run for mayor of New York.
Suburbs tomorrow, sunny and very nice. High 78.
As I woke up that morning, I looked towards the World Trade Center and said, oh, we have a conference today at the Windows on the World, and I have to be there early. And as I arrived at the World Trade Center, I spotted something on the step in the corner. I wasn't sure what it was. Lo and behold, it was a small bird looking forlorn and doomed. I picked it up and I put it into an evergreen, which was at the bottom of the stairs.
That morning, I usually wake up around lunchtime. But that morning was very strange. I woke up around 7 a.m. and I don't know why. I'd only been asleep for about 4 hours. I went to the window. It was a beautiful day, beautiful blue sky day. I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. I just felt very calm and very peaceful.
I had a really bad night. I didn't sleep. I had bad dreams. And when I woke up on the morning of the 11th, all of that was really fresh in my mind, and pretty much every part of me did not want to go to work that day, but I forced myself, and I did.
As I went up in the elevator, I started thinking about the bird again, and I just felt, I thought, I should have moved the bird to a nicer location. I arrived at the Windows on the World, 106th floor. The first thing I noticed was that the work I had intended to do that morning had already been taken care of. Saw one of my colleagues, and he said he'd been there since 7 o'clock. It was his event. He wanted to make sure everything was right. But then we both realized there were a couple things missing, and so I immediately said, oh, I'll go back to the office and get them. So I headed down, and now I was going to rescue my bird and take it over to someplace safer.
I basically went through the routine that I normally do, and it was actually while I was checking my email, I felt a huge vibration that shook the building, and the lights flickered on and off. And I immediately sat up and I said, oh my God, that was a bomb. And then I thought, there's no way that was a bomb, because that came from above.
This just into our newsroom. A plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. Apparently a direct hit into one of the Twin Towers.
The apartment that I was staying at the time was 2 blocks below the World Trade Center. The first thing I remember hearing was a loud explosion, but the thing that really caught my attention was hearing windows shattering and hearing debris falling. Ran over to the window to see what was going on, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, the whole sky was filled with smoke, and there was millions of sheets of office paper floating in the air, and there was debris landing down on the street below. I had no idea the size or scope of what had just happened.
I walked to the south windows of our office, and I stood there watching. You know, I just came from there. I was just there, and you know, I couldn't believe, you know, that I just missed this by, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the very most. And I remember yelling to one of the other editors to please try to call these people, see if they're okay. One of the people at the World Trade Center was reached. He said that everyone had been knocked to the ground and that they were all shaken up. He said, but we're all okay, and they're going to evacuate us. It's kind of smoky, but we're all okay.
I knew with my background in nursing that I could be of help. So I grabbed my rollerblades, I had my medical kit on my back, and I had my camera, and just headed down there.
I had heard over one of our radio systems that we use that Manhattan transmitted a third alarm for a plane that struck the World Trade Center.
I heard some chatter on the radio about a plane into the building, and then I heard Mike come on confirming the job, and I just kind of turned around, got my gear, and headed to Michael's house.
Once I started to smell smoke, I just went into I don't even know how to explain it, but a survival mode. And as we were all queuing up to go down the stairs, I realized that I was last online. I thought, oh my God, you know, I have to go down 31 flights of stairs in this panic state, and just as I was thinking that, an elevator opened. It was against my better judgment. I got on.
One of my coworkers came running out of her office, yelling and screaming. So we went in and we put a TV on in somebody else's office, and I said, I have to call my mom. I said, my dad doesn't go every day. I just want to make sure he didn't go in today.
At about 10 of 9, Karen called me to tell me that the towers had been hit. And at that time, I didn't really, I really didn't think there was a need to worry. Never in my wildest dreams could have imagined what was about to take place.
When I came off the elevator, I had a choice. I could go left or right. It was literally a choice between light and dark. The Liberty Street exit was the light because, you know, the sun was coming through, and the concourse just looked dark and scary to me, and I just couldn't go back underground. I had to go out. I had to get out of here.
We turned the TV on, and I see the World Trade Center burning. And then the announcement was that a plane had crashed into it. When I saw it, I just knew that there was a lot of people dead already and a lot of people dying as I'm watching that. A lot of people need help. I called up our dispatcher and told him I was there at the 93 bombing. I was in charge of the evacuation. You know, if you need me, send me.
I got into Liberty Street. Debris was still falling, and then I started seeing pieces of the airplane. The second I got to the street, I turned around and looked back at the building and noticed that it wasn't debris that was falling. It was actually people jumping out of the building. The sight was almost enough to make me drop to my knees. It was like adrenaline just pumped through my body at that moment because I couldn't believe that what I was seeing in front of me was real. And I realized at that point that I had to just get out of there, that I had to save myself, and there was really no one for me to help because this was something way out of my league.
So I went into one of my coworkers' offices who had a radio, and she turned on the radio, and at that point, that's when the second tower was hit.
just as I started to cross the street, I heard a noise. And I knew exactly what it was. I knew it was a plane. And I knew that it was coming.
And it got louder and louder to the point where it sounded like it was right on top of us. And it definitely sounded like he was full throttle. I mean, it was moving so unbelievably fast.
And I just prayed to God at that point, and I said, you know, please don't let this happen.
And the last thing I saw before the second attack was the silver underside of the plane before it went into the building. It was just unbelievable, the explosion. I mean, I could feel the heat from where I was standing. It was just a massive, massive fireball. I know it looked big on TV, but to be standing there below the towers and see that, it was just unbelievable.
And it was complete pandemonium. At that point, everyone was running. It was like a stampede, and I just remember thinking, I have to get as far away from this area as I can.
I knew this disaster was unfolding, but I just had this outside hope that everyone was going to be okay.
We started getting reports that there was a third plane inbound. We got reports that a plane crashed into the Pentagon. The world knew we were under attack. This was war.
It is horrific. A second plane the size of a passenger jet flying into the second tower of the World Trade Center.
Oh my God.
I think the moment that second plane hit, I was pretty much terrified. I distinctly remember that feeling of my heart feeling like it was going to come out of my chest. It was beating so hard. I was trying to remain calm, but I knew that I was in trouble.
I thought of my dad immediately. I just felt this hopelessness, like right away, like, oh my gosh, something happened to him.
I knew based on the time frame that he left around 6:15 that he should have been in his office, but again, I didn't know if he had a meeting first thing in the morning or maybe stopped at the Midtown office.
I was standing at the base of Bank One Plaza. There was a ramp that led down to a loading dock. People that were caught out in the plaza at the World Trade Center that were exiting the buildings started running down the ramp towards me. I just remember the look of panic on some of their faces. I mean, they were absolutely terrified. Their momentum carried them right into the metal door of the loading dock, and they began pounding on it, begging someone to open it. At that point, I started feeling panicked, like, okay, something bad could happen here, and I knew I had to get out of there.
I called the dispatcher again. Whatever alarm assignment you have down there, double it, because now we have 2 buildings fully involved. And then it was not really asking to go down. I kind of told him I'm going.
We exited the Holland Tunnel. The first thing we saw was the 2 towers burning.
You just heard nothing but sirens and people yelling and screaming. And I went to the back of Mike's truck. I grabbed my camera, I grabbed my radio, took a deep breath and said, this is what we got to do, and started walking down West Broadway.
I had to stop in to see a friend to get some batteries. And all I remember him saying is being really angry at me for going down there and trying to stop me. And he said, it's not like you're going off to a war or something. And those words have stayed in my head to this day because he was so wrong.